it's 2 by 2. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what to say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like a chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need. You find the keys.
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixes cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing the light, holding on for life. Holding on for life, feeding the high, chasing the night, chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get off you. Day to day you wanna stay out. You're chasing the light, holding on for life, fading the high, chasing the night, chasing the night, chasing the
We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this. this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah. No what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what he say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like a chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need. To find the keys, the keys.
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixers 'cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing love. Holding on for life. Chasing
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RCI TV. Feels like we were here less than 24 hours ago, and in fact, we were, me and Jesse, of course, bringing you the Night Owl Championship yesterday at a very rainy Nürburgring. However, today, a little special cup race for you guys today. We have our Japan Cup at Suzuka, currently watching the Lamborghini man himself. Wait, that's not a Lamborghini, that's a Nissan GTR. Ismail Lebrec for the You Bet I'm Taking Tires racing team today. Excellent team name. I wonder if he's going to pit for tires today. No way, I guess we don't need to. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Jones, bringing you the commentary today, along with Stewie, who was our broadcaster yesterday as well, bringing you all the live pictures. And a special guest here with me. I don't get to commentate with this man that often, Mr. G Max George Smith himself, joining me in the comments booth. What's up, George?
Good day, Mike. Yes, indeed. Not often that we find ourselves in this similar spot together, but I'm glad that we have a special event this evening. This evening for me, this afternoon for some others, this morning for wherever you're watching in the world. But it doesn't matter. It's 6:25 a.m. on the practice side of things at Suzuka here for that Japanese Cup, and of course, that's so much fun to talk about. Lexus, some Nissans. And, of course, the Hondas now getting a little bit of limelight. Not often cars that are picked up in leagues. I know people like to pick them to be a little bit different, but this is going to be an interesting round.
I agree. So I was planning on potentially racing today. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to race or commentate. And I myself was actually going to be running one of those Honda NSX Evos. I can tell you, if you get a good setup under that thing, it really can be pretty strong here at Suzuka. Of course, Japan Cup, we are at Suzuka. All three of these Japanese cars out here showcasing their home track. I still think, even despite my saying the Honda can be pretty decent around here, I really think that we're going to see these Lexi be really good around this track today. Ismail, of course, in this Nissan GTR. Also, pretty quick on the hot lap side of things. I'm really curious to see how they do for race pace, as these GTRs really do lose race pace sometimes. We get a little bit of a touch there going through 130R. Not quite the best place to pass there, Mr. Lebrec, but that's what we got today, apparently. Unfortunately for whoever that Honda was, he will not be too happy about that, if I'm not mistaken. But we will have some live stewards for the race. So these guys will have to behave themselves, or they will get the hammer brought down upon them, led by Mr. Fabian Schmidberger himself today as the head steward, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. We're going to be switching over to qualifying here, George. You got any predictions for these cars as we get into qualifying?
I don't think predictions as much. I'm kind of more looking forward to the race myself to kind of see how things pan out. I know that we've got a variety of different skilled drivers here as well. So, of course, the pros and the AMs all sharing the same server and then making their own sort of space in the race for their own placement finishes. So there's sort of two cups in one really in this hour and a half long race, and of course we got a quali before that. So kind of a lot of action going to be crammed into the next little bit on this YouTube channel. So in for a bit of a treat myself. Hopefully the viewers themselves are also looking forward to it. Of course, everybody's got their favorite cars or their drivers out in the chat, and they're going to be hoping for the best results for whoever they're following.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really curious. These cup races are always pretty interesting because everybody always has a favorite in a lot of these cup races. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the Honda as well as the Nissan. But I just don't know if either of those will do too well today. We have a couple of really quick drivers, though, in these kind of lower tier cars. Wolf Matushka himself making an appearance today in that Honda NSX Evo. And of course, Lebrec, just a very quick driver. Anybody who's tuned into the Night Owl races the past couple weeks knows that he has just been dominating there. Stefan Zero, Michael Schumacher, P1, P2 at the moment in the Lexus, so they're out here throwing it down. So I am curious, here there in the chat, what do you guys think? Lexus, Nissan, Honda? do we think that Wolf and his alien skills can overcome what might be a slightly weaker car for that Honda, or do we think that this Lexus and this Nissan is really what's going to bring it home today because they're just so much more consistent around Suzuka? Like the 12-hour of Suzuka that we commentated, not together, George, but we did commentate a few months ago. The Lexus, it did pretty well across that 12-hour as we're now switching into qualifying.
Yeah, qualifying now on the circuit for the drivers, 24 degrees ambient, 24 degrees on track as well. So 15 or 12 minutes for them to get out on circuit and get some laps in. Not a long time here at Suzuka, as it's a little bit of a longer circuit out for the drivers. So you got to make sure that those laps count. You got to make sure that you get yourself in a position that you are in it to win it. And to really have a good race at Suzuka, you need to have a good start up towards the front of the order if that's kind of where you want to go. There's not a lot of overtaking opportunities unless you are willing to take some big risks. We saw in practice 130R, a little pass move to going through there. It takes two to tango. So if you're going to go for a move and the other driver is going to give you the adequate space that he should when you are two abreast, then sure, there's going to be some good racing on circuit. But if those doors are going to be closed down, then it's going to be a nightmare if you find yourself down towards the bottom of the order. So Brock McDude getting himself out nice and early for his qualifying run. Going to be just doing his out lap here, trying to generate some temperature into those tires, get the brake discs up to temperature 2, out through the hairpin on his way through 200R. At this grip level of the car, you can still take 200R flat. So when the car's up to temperature, it's a really quick corner, and then you just chuck it in for the left-hander of Spoon too. So, it's going to be interesting, Mike. I'm not too au fait with the BOPs of all the cars here. I mean, it's not just BOPs; it's driver skill too that's going to differentiate things. So I think my usual prediction game is going to be based on car liveries once again. Which one looks the nicest?
Oh, car liveries. Well, unfortunately, I can't give that to the Lexus because unfortunately, SRO does not license that for us. I do like the default liveries for the Lexus, but, after a while, it does get a little boring. I am a little bit of a fan of Brock's here. I think it's a little too white, as we're going to watch him start his lap here. Brock McDude, 47 Nissan GTR for Ram Ranch Racing, making his way through turn 1 here, going to start taking the S's. First man out on the track, only 12 minutes of qualifying. And we will see how he goes across here. I will say, though, I did see, I believe it was Matushka out here, of course, in his traditional Pepto-Bismol colored car. Not an Audi in this case, but a Honda. I was actually a huge fan of that. I thought the Honda looked quite good at it, George.
I mean, I would not. I would be completely a liar to say I was surprised by anything Wolf Matushka did not impressing you, Mike. I know you are a big Matushka fanboy, so a pink Honda, biting your taste, not too bad. Underneath the crossover goes McDude, a little bit of a wrestle out from Degner too. Then onto the anchors for the hairpin, and you can just see that McDude in his Nissan. I mean, this is one of the older cars on the grid. I mean, we make the joke quite often, but all the tinfoil out towards the floor panel, and he's actually going to dive out of the way. He's abandoning this lap, and that's unfortunate for him because he's only got 8 minutes and 25 on the clock. We're going to jump over to Ismail Lebrec, a man who has not dropped his lap just yet, and yet another Nissan GTR. So I heard you chuckling, Mike, to the team name there. So is there an inside joke, or is it just did you just like it?
A little bit of both. This seems to be a bit of a meme for the Night Owl Championship, where we were sitting there wondering, especially yesterday at Night Owl Championship in the rain, was just a mess. We were sitting there wondering the entire time. Jesse and I were, are they going to take tires? Like we can't decide. You're going to pit. You're going to take tires. You're going to change from wets to slicks, slicks to wets. We don't know. This is a 90-minute race today. So up in the info channel on Discord, I actually posted wondering, as we're seeing our first few laps come across here, Lebrec did not post one. Looks like he did invalidate, so he'll have to go around one more time. But I did post on the Discord, 90-minute race, you do have to have a pit stop. There's no requirements for it, so do you take tires? So I'm wondering if Ismail is kind of running off of that a little bit and going, oh, hey, guys, I am definitely going to take tires, as we're switching over to the Wolf Matushka Muck Motorsport 25 Evo. And he posted a pretty quick lap. That's a 59.5. That's not too bad in that Honda. We do have pretty reasonable conditions out here. Schumacher did, however, take over in that Lexus, and we are seeing 4 out of 5 in the top 5 right now being that Lexus. But George, about 6.5 minutes left in qualifying. I really think I'm thinking what we're gonna see is we're gonna see 1 Honda, 1 Nissan, and 3 Lexuses in the top 5. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's what's gonna end up with.
Yeah, I think the Lexus has always been quite a strong qualifying car. I think it's not going to be unfavorable here at Suzuka in terms of getting up here in the qualifying side of things. But the fact that we've got a 90-minute race, I think, plays a little bit into the hands of some of the other manufacturers, perhaps the likes of the Honda and maybe even the Nissan. I know that the Honda is a little bit lighter on tires. The Lexus becomes quite a beast to choose through its tire sets where it gets the chance. So, it's I think that although we'll see some Lexuses up the front, sure, I don't think that's going to be the way that the cookie crumbles for a 90-minute race. I do have some sort of inkling that gives me the feeling that these things are going to chew through tires, and there's going to be a little bit of a change-up. I hope to see so, because for the moment, the top 10 is very much Lexus dominant.
Yeah, I think as we think we alluded to a little bit earlier, it's just not that surprising to see all these Lexuses in the top 10 for the moment in qualifying. But I think you're right, George. I think that as we run through this race, of course, the Lexus is notorious for burning through tires in comparison. However, that Nissan is a little bit rowdy itself. So, if you start getting a little sideways, get some flat spots on the tires, you could have that as well. And with this 90-minute race, you can absolutely make a case for every single person on this grid, having run these 3 cars. It's not like we have an Aston out here or a Ferrari out here or something that's really good on tires. I think most of this grid will pit for tires. I think we're going to see a huge dive in for the pits roughly halfway through this race, have everybody take about half a lap of fuel, throw down some half a tank of fuel, throw down some tires, fill up the tank, and keep going at about 45 minutes or so as we're switching back to Lebrec here, who definitely will be taking tires today, but he's approaching Spoon Corner on his lap at the moment, has not posted a valid lap quite yet, and he's going quite wide there in Spoon, trying to find that apex and get a good run down the backstretch over to 130R. Gonna see if he's able to post a lap, and he's not. He just got too loose, I think, coming into Spoon. He may have invalidated. He's only got about, just under 4 minutes. He's going to go back, switch his tires, and try to get back out on the track, as he's only got time for 1 more lap, or he is starting in the back. But Michael Schumacher, Wolf Matushka, still P1, P2. Schumacher actually improved on his time a little bit, too, by about a 10th on that last lap. So Wolf is out on a lap at the moment, not up, not down either. Got about a half a lap or so to go, so he's got time to potentially do that. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, he may have just invalidated. That was pretty wide out of that Degner, but we will see. He's still going on the lap here. He's got at least 1 more that he can do. But I think that these guys are going to struggle to catch up to Schumacher. That's another 3/10.
I mean, it's an interesting quali field across the board. If you look down in 13th place now, Quinten van Wingerden, is an AM car that is very much out of position compared to his fellow AM competitors. So up in 13th place, surrounded by a couple of pro drivers too. So some good showings coming down from the qualifiers there. Tebo Maloto also doing a good job in that 808. He's got Schumer in between himself and the rest of his AM split down there. So, Mike, I mean, if the AM drivers bring some heat here, they might be able to then register themselves up in the pro split for future series too. I mean, that's what all of these are for. You find yourself where you think you need to be, and you might outperform your class, and next time around, into the pros you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what these single events are good for. You know, you come out, you sort yourself. Of course, originally we had signed up to potentially have a silver split for this race as well, and then just kind of ask drivers, hey, just in case we don't have enough registration, you know, where do you want to fit at? And of course, we do have 39 cars on the track. That is a pretty packed track here, though. Suzuka being a nice big endurance track should leave plenty of room. Wolf did not make a last lap on that last one. Got caught up in a little bit of traffic in turn one as well. He's already 5/10 down. I think that is going to be his lap there. But that said, not a lot of people up if I'm scrolling down my standings here as we are in the final 2 minutes. We have Lebrec here who has not posted a lap. He just finished his out lap after we saw him teleport back to pit. So he's going to give a run at least posting a lap before he has to start back in P37. And that is not where you want to be, as you said earlier, George. Not necessarily the absolute easiest track to overtake on all the time. And with 40 cars on the track, going to be a little rough. Looking down the grid, we do have Billy Octane in 15th place. He's about a half a second up, so he should potentially pick up a couple positions here if he can hold steady. He's currently taking the hairpin, a couple spots down near 20th position that are all up a few tenths, and it is a pretty tight circuit through the center of that, as we're seeing Lebrec adjust probably his TC there as he's cresting the Dagners, perhaps adjusting the TC as he comes down to the hairpin. Wants to get a little less TC out of the hairpin and into Spoon. Hopefully he's going to be able to post a lap here. Otherwise, it's going to be a rough ride for him.
That's what we sort of said too. If you want to be a front-running competitor, it's all about getting a decent start. 37th place for a pro car, and Ismail Lebrec being the man to be in that car is definitely not where he wants to find himself. So potentially going to be taking a little bit of a safer line out through some of these corners too. So his final lap is going to be a banker lap as well as his submitted lap too. So down the back stretch, he roars in that GTR, takes 130R, and makes sure to keep it as between the limits as he can. At least half or a fraction of those tires were within the limits. Then through the final little chicane triangle and the last corner, quali is officially over. Ismail Lebrec roars down at the start-finish line, and we're going to see where he comes out. We'll go up into third place. So, I mean, it's a spicy quali coming out from him, and that's what he really needed out there. And you betcha there's probably a little bit more inside that too. So, you know, only 2 tenths off the pace, almost 3 tenths there, really, off the likes of Martin Schumacher as we look back down at the number 56. Currently in 9th place, looking to better his time as well, is still 4 tenths up on his lap time as he makes his way up to Spoon. So a couple of cars out here getting a final lap in for the final parts of quali, and this is one of those cars.
Yeah, so he's about 5 tenths up at the moment as he is cresting the back end of Spoon here. He's got enough pace here to get up potentially into the top 5. As he's approaching 130R, we'll see if he's able to hold this thing steady. If you get a good run in and out of 130R, you can definitely pick up a tenth or two, riding that curb really heavily, hard on the brakes into the final chicane. Pops over the curb 1, pops over the curb 2, pops over the curb 3. Here he comes down the start-finish straight. Hilicalio still about 5 tenths up. This should put him, I believe, into P6 if I'm doing my math right here. He's going to cross the start-finish line, and we're going to see where it lands. It will be P6, about a half a tenth or so behind P5. So just not quite enough to pop him into that top 5, but it's still improved on the time a bit, and still not a bad time overall. You're still under that 2-minute mark, and that is not a bad way to live. As we are wrapping up qualifying here, our broadcaster back to his screen, because ACC sometimes likes to get us stuck. So we apologize about the chat popping up and whatnot on the screen, but we'll be back over to the grid here momentarily. There, the session has ended. Madzo, being the last one to pop off a lap, P32. There are two drivers, as one of those drivers happened to be me, as I retired out earlier. Two drivers that did not put down a lap time. So we are going to switch over to the grid here shortly. If we can pull up the timetable for a minute here, Stewie, let's take a look. We got Michael Schumacher, or I'm sorry, it's Martin Schumacher, right? Martin Schumacher in that 411 Lexus out in P1 with a 59.286, a blazing lap from him. Wolf Matushka, Ismail Lebrec, Rizzo, Zero, Hilicalio, Rupert, McCole, Katozi, and Ripper. So we have 3 Nissans, 1 Honda, and 6 Lexus in the top 10 here, George, kind of as we expected. Let's see what happens. We're on the grid now. Do we think these Nissans are going to be able to keep up? Will the Hondas possibly be able to throw down? We're going to find out here about 5 minutes to formation lap. We might see our broadcaster dip out just for a quick second, as ACC will not let him out onto the grid. We apologize, guys. So he might just pop in and out of the server really quick.
You sometimes also just have to escape and just hit drive again. It's a very strange system, old ACC broadcasting. Makes our lives interesting as broadcasters, but we love it nonetheless. When everything works and we get over to the race session, it's one of the best looking sims out there. So dealing with a couple of nuances, something that we can deal with. Over onto the grid, 4 minutes on the clock for the drivers now to load up those race setups. Of course, they've got that mandatory pit stop indicated next to their driver name as well. So it'll be interesting to see who does what. No actual requirements for that pit stop too, as you talked about, Mike. So really into the hands of them having to go in. Is there a minimum of 1 liter fuel requirement at all?
There is, just because a lot of the times ACC will not clear the pit stop. Yeah. So we do require the fuel, but that's it.
I've seen people not take fuel and then have the pit stop just not count. So that 1 liter, definitely hope everybody's remembered to just make sure that that's included in their pit stop. So that's kind of what they'll probably be setting up here. And you know, an hour and 30 minutes, a 90-minute race is a decent length here as an enduro stint to do out in a car that possibly a lot of drivers unfamiliar with too. So I expect that it will be one of those situations where drivers kind of settle in, and then we start to see sort of a mid-pack pace increase as everybody gets used to their car in the race conditions. And then hopefully everybody's in a position that into the concluding minutes, Mike, we get a fight out to the line.
I do think we will. I think, you know, with 40 cars on the grid here, these guys are all pretty close in skill level. You know, we've got a lot of guys that are out here on this grid today that are all pretty quick drivers. And the thing is these are pretty quick drivers that aren't even necessarily in their normal cars. You know, Matushka, for example, usually drives the Audi, right? Lebrec usually driving that Lamborghini. If I'm not mistaken, Stefan Zero, who is I know it's showing Madzo at in P1. He's down in P37. That should solve itself once we start taking off on the line, I believe. But Stefan Zero back in what would be 5th place. If I'm not mistaken, he's one of the couple that I recognize that I believe he actually is in his normal car. I think that he generally does run that Lexus. And of course, like Billy Octane, he's never in the Honda. He was telling me earlier, this is about his first 5 minutes he's ever ran this car for this Japan race today. Same thing with McDude. He doesn't run these cars very often. The Woost brothers, Dustin at least is in here. I believe Steven couldn't make it today, but Dustin is in here. If I'm not mistaken, I think they generally run the Audi. So Dustin is out here in that Lexus as well. So this would be very interesting, you know, seeing these drivers kind of tame new cars on top of everything that's going on, you know, in this 90-minute race. That should make for some interesting racing, especially here at the start with these pro and AM drivers. First AM car, P15, not too bad.
I mean, it's a decent showing. I mean, so are we saying that the grid slots are all 1 position out here if the number 73 is also then in 15th?
That should be correct. Yeah, Madzo was that one, I believe, that we were watching cross the line at the end there in P37. So I think that the
Yeah.
grid, for some reason, it's just for some reason the grid bugged, because we
Stacked
can
it a little
obviously
bit
see that
strange.
Schumacher and Wolf right there
Start
on the
second,
front.
correct.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
stacks everybody up a little bit strange, and
yeah.
yeah, I mean it's going to be an interesting race down in the AM division too. I think that the front of AM is going to be battling out with the pack of Pro, and then I think that the mid pack of AM is going to have their own sort of interesting race, because a lot of them aren't on the pace levels of the Pro cars. So over 90 minutes, if you those seconds off, you are going to be caught up in the blue flag situation. If you're caught out on track, having some battles as well just adds to the elements of sim racing. So having the two different driver tiers, I'm an absolute fan of. Similar to having almost like a multi-class lobby with GT3s and GT4s, except everyone's in the GT3s, and specifically for the Japan Cup, it's the Nissans versus the Lexus versus the Hondas out on the grid. And we'll see our drivers starting to peel away here for that single file formation lap. Martin Schumacher going to lead us away. Wolf Matuszka going to round up in second place on the grid. And then, of course, Ismail Lebrec starting in third. So tons of excitement. I've got to hold it back for now. I feel like there's plenty of energy required for this next 90 minutes.
There was plenty of energy required yesterday for our race, and it was all 60 minutes long, so I am looking forward to another exciting one today, as we are seeing these guys run their formation lap. Of course, Martin Schumacher, as George said, leading this formation lap in his Tech 1 Racing 411 Lexus. This is a look back from his wing camera back to P2, P3, P4, P5 of Matuszka, Lebrec, Rizzo, and Zero, and so on behind, as they make their way through the first sector of this track, warming up the tires, warming up the brakes a little bit. That is a big deal here in ACC if you're not familiar with this game. Tires, important to warm up, as you can damage the tires running over curbs if you get too low of pressures. And of course, the brakes being the biggest deal of all. A lot of the times what we'll see is guys focusing more on their brakes during this formation lap. You start just kind of speeding up, slam on the brakes, speed up, slam on the brakes, because the last thing you want is a Wolf Matuszka or Ismail Lebrec breathing down your neck with cold brakes coming into turn one. It's not what I want to see. Not that I'd ever be in front of them unless I was having a blue flag waved at me personally, but if I was Martin Schumacher, it's not where I would want to be.
I doubt it. I think you would want to be anywhere near Wolf Matuszka that you could get your opportunity to be near Wolf Matuszka. I think cold brakes, warm brakes. You're gonna pick that pink Honda any day of the week for this situation here. But I mean, like you said, Mike, this formation lap pretty critical for the guys to try and get as much temperature as they can out there, and it's not the most ideal situation by any means. And I think no one will go out there as a driver and say that the Kunos outlap formation lap is the best outlap system that's there. I think that in terms of getting tires up to temperature, it's only really done very much on the first lap. This formation lap really forms more as a competitive benchmark to make sure that everybody starts in the right place, and then of course awards those drive-through penalties to drivers who are trying to get a little jump on other cars. I mean, if you remember from the early days in the ACC life, it was very much about that. It was very difficult to govern, and it was very much open to exploit. So it's one of those systems that just has to be here, but unfortunately isn't one of those things that really gets the tires and brakes up to the same temperature that a real-life outlap or formation lap would get there. And I think a lot of real-life drivers have been caught out quite often by the difference in reaction to the cars. So 2x2, they start to line themselves up, heading on to the chicane, and what a beautiful sight.
Let's make the call, George. Let's make the call as they approach the final chicane here. What do you think? Who do you think's got the 90 minutes of racing in them to come across with that checkered flag?
I mean, I would like to say that Lebrec here in the Nissan is going to be an interesting choice for me. I don't think he got his optimal. Someone peeling out into the pit lane for the start as well here. So, an interesting there. So Lebrec is my pick, Mike. Closed. Over to you quickly before
we go green.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with
I
my
know who
man
it
Wolf
is.
Matushka. You knew
I
where that
mean,
was
yeah,
coming, right?
I'm not surprised. The green lights are about to go. We're about to get going for 90 minutes of the Japan Cup, and there go the green lights. It's a good start from the likes of Schumacher. The grunts of the Lexus coming down.
And
It will be
Ismail.
side by side for Lebrec and the likes of Matushka. Inside line through curve 1 for the Nissan. Matushka trying his best to hold on, but I think Lebrec getting the jump off. A couple of cars running wide, look like coming out from the back end of the pack, but the jump coming out from Schumacher leads away. Lebrec slotting into second, and it looks like Rizzo going to be putting some pressure onto Matushka for third place.
Yeah, not a good start by Matushka there. Schumacher just took off the line. That Lexus just speeding away, and Matushka dove immediately from Lebrec there. So we are seeing these guys just go single file the rest of the way down so far, approaching the Sector 2 section here as they round the Degners and gonna approach the hairpin for the first time. We are seeing the timing board shake itself out, and we did see that Rupert, who started in P7, that was the man who dove, I believe, into the pits. We saw him get a drive-through as the pit lane was closed, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, it looks like Rupert had a different issue. That was not him that dove into the pits. One of the other Lexuses that dove into the pits, of course, pit lane was closed. That would not work. But looking back through the field here, we are getting most of these cars pretty much stacked up single file. There is a bit of an incident going on in P33 in the hairpin, it looks like. Stewards will have to take a look at that one. So far, nothing too bad, though, from what I'm understanding. And these guys just kind of single file out. Not too much action overall here on lap 1, other than what happened in turn 1 with Matushka so far.
I mean, it's difficult to, as a single cameraman perspective, catch the action that's happening across a 38-car grid. As we see an inside dive, a big dive coming in. That's going to be looked at by the stewards for sure, as Michele Rizzo dives through the... Oh, no, it was not Rizzo that dived through the chicane. I don't know. I think that might be Katosi.
Or McCole,
Katosi, yeah, possibly jumping through there, missing the braking points. We talked about the warm brake issue, or the cold brake issue.
We got a massive incident in the chicane here as well again. Looks like, unfortunately, there's just a lot happening in the chicane.
Mike catching some stuff. We catch Billy Octane running wide through curve 1. We're going to get a bit of a replay diving back down through the order 2 to see if we can... Oh, a bit of a big slide coming out from that Nissan through 130R. And then we've got a Lexus, Honda. All three of our competitors actually coming through. And, oh, I see where the pileup has started. Oh, it's a train of cars coming through, and everybody aware of that situation maybe going to be benefiting off of it, as I think some damage being done to the front and rear ends of some of those GT3 cars. Their aero is going to be impacted. Stewards are going to be kept very busy.
Yeah, they sure are. We will wait for those steward reports to come out. Of course, as I mentioned, Mr. Fabian Smedberger will head up our stewarding team tonight, so he will be on top of making sure that all of these guys are driving safely, and if not, penalized for it if needed. As we're back on board with Rizzo here in the 74 Lexus. This is the man who got dove going into the chicane on lap 1 there a little bit. I don't think there was quite any damage from that one. A little bit of a kind of door-to-door contact, but overall, just a little bit of a misjudge and braking from behind. Luckily, nothing too bad like the other incident. So I think we're seeing nope, not quite a move there. I thought maybe Helicalia was going for Rupert there. Rupert going defensive in front, but not quite enough to make it through. Rupert, though, does have that drive-through from the formation lap that he will have to serve at some point. And we did just see another penalty come out for the 222 car, stop and go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. So must have released the limiter a little early there, as we are seeing a move here down into turn 1 now. Helicalia there on the outside. That's Rupert on the inside, if I'm not mistaken, a couple spots ahead of where we're looking right now. And that is Helicalia going to go ahead and fall back. Maintain his position. Apologies. He was in 6th place already, so not quite able to get that move done going into turn 1 yet. And again, just kind of I'm a little surprised, George. I was expecting these guys to be fighting all lap 1, 2, 3, but so far, kind of single file racing for the moment.
I think everybody here has put a lot of time and effort into getting their pace levels up, potentially on lighter fuel loads than they expected. Quinton van Wingerden is having an interesting time here as himself, and it looks like the likes of Ocamp have got themselves up towards the front end of the running order. It looks like Lecky is the front running AM car at the moment, but it is Ocamp at the moment who has Vust behind him, and of course Quinton Wingerden in front of him. So they're fighting it out for those 3 AM podium positions at the moment. Lecky, Wingerden, and Ocamp currently hold them down, and Ocamp trying to get himself up into second place, and of course ahead of some of the pro drivers as well. Like we talked about, Mike, that's always a good bragging rights, and perhaps these guys find themselves seated in a better place during the next Endurance Cup or event or special race, whatever sort of action we throw at them from RCI.
And of course, we do have one of those coming up pretty soon here, George, with our 12 hours of Bathurst. Of course, I believe that me and you will be a little separate on the commentary, but bringing some of the commentary for that along with Jesse and Ryan. And I believe Mr. Nick Setnick will be joining for us for one of the broadcasting as well. So 12 hours of Bathurst, you can register for that up on the Discord if you would like, as we're jumping to Martin Schumacher here, I believe lapping somebody already. Oh, that's that 222 went in for the early pit. So that is the 222 that went in for the early pit that got that stop and go is currently blue flagged back behind the leaders.
We should have stayed with the battle between Ocamp and the likes of Wingerden all the way through the chicane there, because it went absolutely nuts. They went 3 cars wide. Ocamp made the pass on the likes of Van Wingerden, so gets himself up into second for AM, and then has Vust following through. So Vust now a little pad out in the AM side as a pro driver, sort of splitting the grid order. We still follow along with the likes of Schumacher at the moment. Lebrec hot on his heels, chasing down as they make their way down through the hairpin. Inside line for Schumacher, as we see Lebrec taking a little bit more of a angle coming down through, trying to carry some more speed, but it looks like the Lexus has a really nice jump on the Nissan when it comes down to that acceleration as they go down through 200R. Then onto the brakes just lightly again, carry as much momentum through Spoon, and just look how Lebrec closes back down again, but onto that right pedal goes Schumacher, and the Lexus once again just showing that brunt force. There will be a little bit of slip for Lebrec coming down to 130R, but it's not enough to have any sort of look. It's a difficult corner to make anything happen, even if you are alongside. So you kind of settle yourself in, see if you can get onto the brakes a bit later for the chicane, but you can't do that if Schumacher is doing just everything right, and that's what the 411 Lexus is doing at the minute. So hot and fun at the front of the grid order, and the 2 manufacturers battling out in the Japan Cup so far being the Lexus and the Nissan, as we dive back to another Nissan of Brock McDood.
Yeah, Brock McDood here back in P14 at the moment, currently chasing down one of the AM cars who is in P1 and AM. Lecky with the Lexus back behind him, Schumacher and Leonard kind of in a little bit of the distance there, though close enough to definitely make an attack if Brock makes that slight bit of a mistake. Of course, Brock McDood here, one of the teammates of Billy Octane. Billy Octane currently running in P11 in the 33 Honda, doing pretty reasonable for himself in that Honda. Has definitely made up a few positions since the race started. Of course, other than Mr. Matushka, our very first Lexus on the grid, I believe, qualified in P15, which may have been Octane. I don't remember if it was Octane or if it was Leonard back a few minutes ago. But yeah, this is Brock McDood kind of whirling around Snake, approaching through Dunlop and the Dagners for the moment, about 10 minutes or so into this race. However, there is definitely a couple battles going on throughout here. We got a battle up for P6, battle for about P9, big old battle here for P20. These guys kind of stacked up, 3 Lexuses within about a half second of each other or so. This is currently Joanne Spoonek in the 348 Lexus ahead of him. Banks in the 16 Pro Car Lexus approaching the hairpin, and they're going to just keep single file here, wait for that mistake to happen, and see if Spoonek can make that pass, perhaps down into Spoon here shortly. But so far, not too many mistakes that we're seeing come across.
No, just kind of settling in. I think that's the spirits of the day in a 90-minute race in the GT3s. I don't think that you really can put yourself at risk at this stage of the race, especially knowing that the track limits are something that you do have to monitor coming towards the closing stages, as well as the fact that they are live stewards. So if you are in an incident, you could find yourself serving out a penalty, which is going to impact that race even more. So just settling in with someone being able to use some of the slipstream, someone using that slipstream now. Katozi maybe pulls out to have a look towards the likes of Rizzo, but isn't going to commit to that. Still also going to have to settle back. The number 74 runs a little bit wide, kicks up a little bit of dirt before running into the S's. And these curves are just such a difficult portion of Suzuka. I mean, Suzuka has many difficult elements, but the S's here become such a handful if you do start to run out of grip. And that's where I suspect these Lexus drivers will find themselves in at the closing phases of the race if they aren't going to be changing over with tires. So the number 74 here catching up to the likes of, I believe, a backmarked car who's going to pull out of the way. And good sportsmanship being shown there. Blue flags being waved as Rizzo on the flashes, just letting him know that he's got another Lexus hot on his heels, and he needs to find a place to get past safely.
Yeah, Hilicalio still a few seconds up the road as well. So we've just currently got just a few cars just kind of roughly battling it out here. Of course, Katozi and Rizzo, as we're watching here, P10, P9, a little bit of a battle going on there as well. Kind of about a half a tenth back between them. But overall, these cars have spread themselves out pretty far so far in this race. I think that, potentially the different strategies coming into play here. We'll see these guys potentially. Some of these guys go for the long overcut, like we generally see, take as much fuel as possible, which means they're going to be a little slower at the start, but they can pit a lot later. Or a couple of these guys might be, going that half tank of fuel, get about 45 minutes in, make a brush in for tires, and top off the fuel. Looking back at P23 here, a little bit of a battle going on. All these cars are fighting for position. This is Evans in the front of this pack with Rupert, Bockel, and Renor. 2 Pro 2 Am as Bockel's, he's going to go for the dive through. A little bit of a late braking there, and he punts. I believe that's Rupert up off the track. We're going to get a little bit of a replay here. Very, very late on the brakes, and he actually passed. I don't even think that was Rupert that he hit. He dove past Rupert and hit the man in front. That was Evans that he got, actually. So I'm sure the stewards will have something to say about that. Very, very late on the brakes and just shoves one down coming into the chicane. And that is not what you want to have, as that's going to cost him quite a few positions here once the stewards take a look at that. So unfortunate incident about 15 minutes into this race, as we're now back over to Billy Octane, who has made up a couple positions for himself up into P10.
And not a bad race coming out from Mr. Octane for a driver who wasn't a big fan of his automobile choice for the championship. Didn't really have too much to choose for this one-time cup race, but if it gets drivers into different cars, that's what it's all about. And then the triple R number 33 doing decently here in 10th place in pro, and 10th place obviously overall. And he's chasing down the likes of Muka in that number 137 in front of him. So less than a second gap between them. So very much that potential for this Honda to have the longer endurance stint here versus the other Lexus drivers in front of him.
And back over to Rizzo, who's just a few spots up, not too far back up the track. In fact, there is Billy Octane in that kind of blue and black mobile there in your background. These guys are kind of scrunching up a little bit here. Rizzo, Katozi, Ripper, Makuch, and Octane, about 5 cars well within fighting range of each other, as we see these guys passing the start-finish line to start lap number 7 for them. Watching back on the wing from Rizzo here, back to Katozi, and we're just seeing these guys just kind of patiently wait. They know this is a little bit of a longer race. This isn't, as sprint raced as, say, a standard 60-minute standard 60-minute race or so, 90 minutes I feel like really adds in a heck of a lot more strategy than just a 60-minute race does, because there is probably a longer pit stop to make. If we were in different cars, perhaps things such as the Ferrari or the Bentley or something, we might even see fuel come into play here. Where maybe they're just fuel saving the entire race. Of course, none of these three cars can make it 90 minutes and in any reasonable amount of time, without massive fuel savings. So we are going to see these guys have to take fuel. So it's just a question of how slow are these guys going at the moment? Are they trying to conserve tires and hope that they can not have to pit for tires, or are they going flat out and trying to make sure that they just burn up their tires, come in for a quick pit stop, change those tires? Of course, tire change in ACC does take 30 seconds. Fuel will not add to that time, so the maximum, unless you have damage, the maximum pit time is 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a really long time in racing, though, George.
I mean, it's that gamble, right? It's about seeing, do you lose the time on the old tires, and does that time in the remaining phase of the race make the same difference or the same gains that you can get up? As we get a little camera shot here of Tsebo Maloto, actually one of my fellow countrymen from South Africa, runs the KK Racing team. So good to see them out in here. See a little spelling mistake in their team name that they've made in their livery there. Racing in the 808. But Tabo had a decent quali, what looked like a decent quali. So finds himself a little bit down towards the bottom side of the contenders in the AM field, but is trying to make up some distance up. He's got Evans in front of him. A little gap between them was a second early on, but I feel like that's closed down as it looks like Evans struggling for some grip out of Spoon. And we talked about Lexus and the grip levels. Perhaps the likes of Evans already starting to struggle early on, and that's not where you want to be if you are in a 90-minute race. Malorto also, of course, in a chasing Lexus, but looking like he's handling a little bit more. Look at that lovely little sunrise we get at 5:26 a.m. here at Suzuka as they make their way up to the chicane. Of course, you get the very atmospheric lighting coming through that big Ferris wheel as well. Quite an iconic piece in the ACC Suzuka screenshots. If you're taking one at Suzuka and you don't have the big Ferris wheel, are you even taking screenshots at Suzuka?
I am not a screenshot master. I might be a little bit of a photographer in real life, as I did do. I've worked in broadcasting for quite a while.
Mike, you're not allowed to plug your Instagram for your wildlife photography of wild aloes.
Well, I definitely don't have an Instagram for ACC screenshots, as I have not quite figured that one out yet. So, not something I've been too good at, though. Some guys do post some absolute beautiful screenshots up on the Discord, and I really like some of the screenshots come across with Suzuka, especially this early in the morning. You get that sun in the background, and it's just beautiful. But this is Evans here, going for a little bit of a move on Avishkin as they're going to approach. This is approaching over to the Dagners. Yeah, that's Degner 1, and he gets that pass done. Not the easiest spot to pass there, coming out of Dunlop and into the Degners, but he gets that done, and that's going to be Evans down or up a position of Avishkin there.
I mean, so what Evans did right there is he forced Avishkin to get onto that inside line. So gets out of Dunlop, lines it up, forces him to have the inside line. So his opponent then is on the defensive, not a line that really is easy to follow through on. And suddenly he's caught a little bit off guard because he can't take Degner how he wanted, and an easy move coming through. Back over to our race leader. Just a little recap up towards the front. Schumacher, Lebrec, and Matushka are current victors in terms of their current standings, but that can all change in a race of this length. But it does look like Martin Schumacher, the driver that was actually not picked by Mike or myself as a victor potential out here, is proving us both wrong. Lebrec and Matushka struggling to hold on, and Schumacher just casually making his way through the field, getting to some lap traffic, and lap traffic giving him the space that it requires as we just see the lapped car peeling a little bit wider out through Spoon and making sure that he doesn't compromise Schumacher's run through there.
And of course, Schumacher has put about 1.5 seconds ahead of Lebrecht, give or take, and who's about 1.5 seconds ahead of Matuszka. I do, however, really like to see P1, P2, P3 be all three cars that we have out on this grid, as Schumacher is going to be finishing up lap number 9, coming through the final chicane, going to make his way onto the start-finish straight. Last lap for him, by the way, a 2-minute 2:85. He's a few tenths slower this lap because of the traffic. He's going to put down a 2-minute 5:01, but very consistent times coming out for Schumacher here. Lebrecht just passed the line with a 2-minute 7. Matuszka behind him a 2-minute 9. So that's just showing right there. Matuszka lost 4 tenths off of Schumacher on that last lap, and that was with traffic. So Schumacher, as you said, just doing a very good job keeping ahead of these guys. Lebrecht and Matuszka struggling. However, we're only 20 minutes into this race. Not only can a lot happen as Schumacher's weaving his way through another lap car here. That was very close. The lap car is actually going to go a little bit off track there as well. So hopefully,
Jensen that lapped car is just trying to recover a little bit. Found himself in a very awkward spot out of the curves, and I mean, you got to feel sometimes for some of these drivers as well. They're doing their best to make sure that they get out the way, but they lose a lot of time in doing so there. So their positions are going to be compromised. Michele Rizzo, the driver that we switch our focus over to, the number 74 Lexus, currently in a battle still with the likes of Matteo Catozzi, who is giving a good little scrap out here for this the 6th place that Rizzo holds on. Catozzi says, you know, I fancy myself a couple extra spots up, and I'm going to push you to the limits of both of these Lexus drivers, giving themselves maybe a more difficult mountain to climb this stage of the race, having to push it out whilst a lot of the other drivers have sort of settled into some clean air where they can just kind of manage their own strategies, etc. But if you want to fight it out for a top 10 finish, Mike, you got to be prepared to go for the long haul, and that sometimes means that you don't have a settled in spot and you are caught fighting out for it. So the 265 behind the number 74 that we follow on board with is the driver to bring that challenge through. Down onto the brakes for the hairpin, or sorry, for the chicane, should I say. And it does look like Rizzo, who was under attack maybe on the prior lap here, found a little bit more rhythm, and Catozzi following in that dirty air, not managing to maintain the same sort of gap. So stays 5 tenths behind, but we got to keep our eye on that one.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on that one. That is Hilicalio, or sorry, not Hilicalio, Ripper coming up behind them a little bit, as well as we switch over to Steve Banks here in the 16 Lexus. He is now cresting that chicane that we just watched Rizzo come across. That is Rupert behind him, roughly about the same amount of distance as the other battle we were just following as well, just under half a second. And that is Ocamp ahead of them in that Honda. So this is a 3-way battle for what would be P16, and P15 isn't too far up the road as well. Ocamp, though, however, is in the AM class. That is P2 Honda in the AM class ahead of these guys, as we're watching the front splitter cam coming across the snake here from Rupert. Ahead of him is Banks. And this is just shows that this is crazy. You don't realize how unlevel this circuit is. You are constantly up, down, up, down, up, down, and it really can unsettle your car if you're not careful. Especially
we just see Banks there struggling for grip. Rupert here looking to capitalize, getting right up behind the splitter, going to try and go side by side for the hairpin. He's not going to have a look-see there. Doesn't quite know which line he wants to take, as Banks puts his Lexus just in the right place to do so. But what a drive coming out from Gerard Ocamp in front in that number 60, or in 16th place at the moment, as an AM driver, kind of not, I wouldn't say even holding up the likes of Banks and Rupert, because they are stuck fighting their own battles. So they kind of negate the fact that they might have a little bit of extra pace if they're given a bit of open track. So they're still sort of stuck out regulating one another. And Gerard Ocamp just doing a great job to hold second place in that AM class for the moment. Lecky, though, is is just kind of running away from the other AM drivers. That number 87 currently in 12th place overall and first in class for the AMs.
Yeah, first in class for the AMs. Lucky just doing absolutely fantastic. Camp, of course, ahead of these guys for P2, and not too far back in the field is the 73 Nissan of Van Wingerden, about 5 seconds back, or where this battle is happening at the moment. We are seeing some side-by-side up ahead. That is Schumacher, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He's kind of carved his way through the field. I believe I saw that was Schumacher's number. I could be wrong. It's hard to tell with the cup races like this sometimes, and especially with the Lexuses, with these guys all having to run the same liveries. But this is them just stacking up side by side, nose to tail through Snake here, and we're gonna see if Rupert can potentially make a move, or maybe even Banks can make a move on Camp. The thing is, if Banks tries to make a move on Camp and he makes a little bit of a mistake, that's going to give Rupert the opening that he's waiting for. So it's that risk reward of, I want this position in front of me, but I've got a car behind me as well.
I put to you that Ocamp here in going in the AM class with the battle behind him, if he starts to get into a situation where, he has absolutely nothing in letting these guys go through. Look at the big dive coming down from the back end from the view that we see here, as it looks like Leonard is going to be the camera angle that we get to follow that action following in from behind. So it's Schumacher for position behind Leonard, and then Ocamp in the AM class as the second place driver, and then of course Banks and Rupert. I think they've actually taken one another out coming into Spoon. It is Banks out. We are going to go back for a little replay, and we'll just see. It's just it's an inside look. It's not the place that it's easy to make two cars go wide. The snapback has made things a little bit more severe, but the stewards will definitely look into that, because that was a battle for position and a battle on track that was continuing through, as it looks like Banks going to have been absolutely rewarded out of that situation, but immediately going to have Reneur and it looks like Wingerden starting to close down onto him. So it's not an easy situation here for Banks, potentially also having some of that damage now picked up. And just look at him trying to shake off Reneur there in that 732 NSX. Coming into curves 1 and 2, all three cars taking a very strange entry into the corner, and doesn't really benefit anyone. I think if the Apex had come out from potentially Wingerden in that number 73 GTR, I could have taken both cars at the same time. But it's that sort of situation where what happens? You're following a car really closely. You're not quite following on your braking points, and you miss it a little bit, misjudge some speed. And that's kind of what happens when you're following cars closely. You've got the dirty air coming through too, but good old racing on track and between different cars and different classes too. So just shows you how evenly matched it actually is. The front end of AM is kind of the back end of Pro anyway. They all merge out.
Yeah, and I think that, I pose to the fact of, Wingerton as well is an AM driver, perhaps a little bit less experienced than some of these pro guys in racing and traffic, right? So that's something that you'll see a lot of is these AM drivers sometimes, they just won't quite go for that hole that, maybe say Matushka or Lebrecq or Schumacher might, because they just can't, they don't quite trust that they're going to be able to make that move. They decide, you know what, I'm going to back off just a little bit. You guys go ahead and take it. I don't want to punt anybody, and so that's very well could have been what Van Wingerden was thinking there. Of course, maybe not. Maybe he just something else happened and he didn't want to make that move. There is two pro drivers in front of him as well, so he knows he's not fighting for that class position, just the overall position. We are going to switch over to P9 here. This is Makush with Fisher right up on his tail. Makush going to hit a little bit of the grass there. They're currently coming through Snake, approaching the Dunlop curve, and we're going to see if Fisher can potentially get a run out of the Dagners into the hairpin, as that is generally your first place to pass outside of turn 1. And so far, Makush doing a good job just kind of keeping it steady, approaching Dagner number 1 here, though Fisher is breathing down his neck, just waiting for that mistake to happen. But these guys keeping it consistent, riding the curbs just right, not getting too loose. And I think Makush is going to get enough of a run into the hairpin here that Fisher's not going to be able to get him this lap. But this is your battle for P9, so these guys within the top 10 at the moment. So far doing pretty well, but Makush goes a little wide there coming out of the hairpin, but it looks like Fisher may have gotten a little loose as well. He's not able to get a run going into Spoon. Gonna have to wait one more lap before he's able to make that move again. But down further the line, back down to Rupert here, George.
Yeah, it's all about just spotting out that opportunity that you can have through. So Rupert loses out to Renault, and Renault then gets it back, and Renault trying a little cutback move out of the hairpin, but I don't think he's going to get it back here. So nice move from Rupert coming down into the hairpin, caught Renault out on the brakes, but that NSX is not giving up just yet and trying to force the number 732 Lexus into making a little mistake himself. So just waiting. The number 71 of Rupert is most certainly not happy to have that 732 putting so much pressure on. So the likes of Wingerton might like to see this fight continue out. We do see a car off track out of 130R. He's beached it on the outskirts. As just look how close Renault does get up to the back end of Rupert here. 58 minutes on the clock, so we're under that. We've cracked through the hour to go mark, and we see Morgan McCall down in 27th place with a 5-second penalty against his name. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, the stewards were just alerting me that they're going to start popping off some of the penalties from the earlier. They were having a little bit of technical issues earlier, but are ready to start implementing penalties as needed from earlier. So our very first one, actually 3 of them coming across so far. We have a 5-second penalty for car 19, car 222, and a 15-second penalty for car 13, all for incidents on lap 1 or 2. So we're going to see some of these guys having to start serve these penalties. Of course, within ACC, you can serve that penalty inside your pit stop. So that will happen as these guys start coming across their pit stops. The pit window, about that halfway mark, there's no official pit window, but these guys, I'm thinking, will likely we're going to see a lot of people coming to the pits here within the next 5 to 15 minutes. I think we're going to see a huge dive for the pit lane. These guys are going to come in about halfway, take some tires, take some fuel, get back out on that track and keep up with this pace, because we are seeing, George, if you've been paying attention to your timing board, we are seeing the leaders starting to lose just a little bit of pace, especially Lebrecht and Matushka, though even Schumacher losing a little bit of pace. We're currently still on board with Fisher here all over the back of Makush, not able to make that move quite yet, and doesn't look like he will get the run down starting lap 16 across here. But yeah, these guys starting to lose a little pace. Wondering if it's tires or if it's traffic.
Possibly could even just be the case of a combination of both of them, Mike Jones. It doesn't just have to be one of the two. I think if you look at the track map on the right-hand side of the broadcast, quite a good indication of that Suzuka circuit as a whole, and quite a good indication of just how busy it is out on circuit. Not a single element of the track is unoccupied, which means that as a race leader, you're catching up to lap traffic all the time, and at the same time, we see some incidents coming out
live. So just push. Just let me know when you're pushing. All right, guys. I think we are back. We should be coming back up here very shortly. Yep, there we go. We are now playing. So apologies for that, guys. Our streamer just happened to lose his PC for a second. We are back live, still on board here with Billy Octane chasing down his teammate Brock McDude for P12. Octane here for the Triple R Racing. Brock McDude going to go a little wide there. He's out on the grass, and that's going to be Octane getting down on the inside just before the hairpin. Brock McDude hard on the brakes, touching the grass. He's going to tap him a little bit there. These guys just all over each other. But that is Brock McDude kind of pushing back past Octane there. Both of them kind of pushing each other off track a little bit. And there's Octane again going off track there just a little bit. These guys fighting tooth and nail for P12. These teammates are. And you know that they're going to be having some words in the voice comms after the race, because that was some rough racing by the both of them. But Octane and Brock McDude, both very, very good dudes. I'm sure that it won't be too harsh. It'll be a little bit of what the heck, man, and they'll hug and make up. But Octane staying back in that P13 spot for the moment. He's going to have to make another lap at taking McDude down next lap, as we're currently back to P26 on camera here. We are seeing Briggs chasing down Mountain, as well as one of the McColes ahead of him. However, Briggs does have the advantage here. McCole and Moten both have penalties that they will need to serve when they come in for their pit stops. So that will put him ahead of these guys. As long as he can stay steady, he has got 15 seconds on Mountain there, and he's a little bit behind McCole, about a second and a half or so. But hopefully Briggs if he can keep on top of that, he might make his way up into P5 for that AM class. And of course, again, over on the right side of your screen, guys, we are having two classes here. You see the red numbered placards, that is our AM drivers. The white placards being our pro drivers, and little amber number 1 means that that driver has not taken their mandatory pit stop yet. Rules for these mandatory pit stops for this 90 minutes of Japan Cup Suzuka race today: fuel requirements only. However, these drivers in a 90-minute race, we are expecting them likely to take tires. And that is a discussion I'm sure George and I will have over the next 20 to 30 minutes if these guys are coming in. We're seeing Evans get a little loose there in the background. That's not Evans. That's a lap car down there behind Briggs at the moment, I believe. Yeah, that's Bockel down behind him, and Schumacher actually catching up to them. But Briggs still chasing down P25 out ahead of him, Mountain, as the pit window is just about open here. About halfway through this race, George. I would not be surprised to see these guys start coming in for the pits.
No, it's it's kind of that situation now where you can kind of decide whether you want to go in and try and undercut some of the cars on track, try and get out in front of some open traffic. We see Schumacher just coming through and getting himself through some of that lap traffic, but he's still got to go into the pits. He's going to come back through, so only the progress that he makes on track now, even if he is just making his way through some of this traffic, he's going to have to negotiate it as well. We see the back markers running a little bit wide, coming out just under the crossover, and it's one of those things here where now you've got that choice. You need to make the call to come in and serve that mandatory stop regardless. You need to put in some fuel. I mean, you've talked about it before. There's no ways that unless you're coasting the entire circuit, plus have someone else towing you and pushing you along, that you'll get through this without making a stop for fuel in one of these GT3 cars. So they do have to consider it. And for now, Schumacher kind of has a bit of a call to make, right? Does he let Lebrec make that undercut on him, or does he decide when the rest of his co-chasers are going to be making their stops as well? Does he put them under pressure, let Lebrec through, and then hope that he gets through? I think at this point he's just trying to get himself as clear of the traffic as possible.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think he's going to kind of wait. If I were Schumacher right now, being that I have the pace currently, I'm still running ahead of Lebrec, I'm still running ahead of Matuszka pretty consistently. I think he waits until he catches a big pack of cars, right? I think he waits until he catches a big pack of cars and then goes, okay, you know what? It's probably about that time. Looking at the track map right now, most of the cars they have cut through already. There are some individual cars that they're going to be passing. So if you look on the right side of your screen right now in red, that is our current car. That was Lebrec cutting through Snake right there. There's just some individuals kind of up through here. I think right now Schumacher is just going to go, you know what? I've got a couple cars here that I've got to pass, but it's not too much. I think he holds. Lebrec and Matuszka, on the other hand, I think it's going to depend on tires. Last lap, Lebrec caught Martin Schumacher by almost a second. Perhaps due to traffic, perhaps due to a mistake, we don't know. But, that did make up a second there. So do Lebrec and Matuszka go for the undercut? I think they do. I think Schumacher stays out. I think Lebrec and Matuszka come in within the next 8 minutes or so here. But hey, I've known to be wrong.
I disagree in terms of what would be the best thing there. I think the Lexus, I mean, again, is he going to be doing this hour and a half on that single set of tires? I said they munched through them, so, you know, maybe the fall off coming out from Schumacher isn't just the lap traffic, it's the fact that he's struggling a little bit. We see the likes of Katosi here also in a battle against the car that is not the same as his, and the Lexus here under attack from the GTR, and Ripper really does have some real power coming out here. Katosi is going to be on the defensive, tries to hold off for the inside line, has to tuck back across to Apex through Spoon, but just look at Ripper. Dialed in, he's got one solid line through. The Lexus sort of squirming in its tires at the moment as it feels the heat coming through. The draft is there. Are they going to go side by side through 130R? I think potentially going to have a look here. And they not quite side by side, but good racecraft coming out from Katosi. Leaves the space there for him, and onto the late brakes goes the GTR. He can't cut across the Apex, and both of them giving each other adequate space coming through. Ripper with a decent job. There is a little collision coming through. It wasn't curb, but it is the pit wall. And that entry point has caught me out before, and will Katosi just decide to serve his pit stop now? I think he's forced to do so anyway, and the collision coming down. And that was not the end of the battle that I wanted to see, but it was the curb that threw Katosi back into the side of Ripper in that GTR. So it wasn't, I don't think it was a racecraft thing from either driver. I think it was pushing it to the limits. And of course, the curvature and the curbs here can just be the end of everything. So unfortunately, that battle put heavily back on ice, as forced to take the pit stop. Looking now at Maxime Leonard in the number 172 NSX, currently sitting in 13th place. Also, still yet to serve a mandatory pit stop, so kind of in the mid-pack, but you know, everybody in front yet to serve their stops as well. So you're not kind of in a position because everybody else has served their stops. McCooch and the likes of McCall down in 20th and 21st in the pro division have served mandatory stops. So, very slidey boy Leonard coming into the S's. Bit of a handful, it seems, a lot of these cars and these drivers. Maybe all struggling a little bit for grip. It's an early morning and the track temperature pretty low, so it's got nothing to do with heat if they are struggling out on the surface at all.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, you know, it is 21C out on this track at the moment. No wind to speak of, so it's just about as optimum as it could get for these guys. But that is a couple guys diving into the pits there, including Martin Schumacher, George. So he is going for that midway pit. Matushka and Lebrec did stay out for this lap. Curious to see if they now, Schumacher pit, hang on, do I need to come in now? But that's interesting. So you did make the call there. Schumacher did go ahead with that Lexus and made sure that he went in for that pit stop. He's going to likely be taking some tires and fuel at this point and coming back out. We did have a couple more penalties come out for the drivers involved in earlier incidents. A couple 5-second penalties coming out, and a drive-through, in fact, coming out for car number 696. He had a bad incident, as we're going to see McDude and Octane diving into the pits now as well, back in what is currently P10, P11. And so these guys diving into the pit lane, Schumacher out ahead of them in 8th place after clearing his pit stop. So definitely took tires for Schumacher there. So we're going to see how Octane and McDude kind of shake out as we're seeing a bit of a run here come out. Look at Schumacher just sprint out of the Degner curves there, but he gets cut off by Ocamp. And there's a touch in the back. Rupert and Schumacher make contact coming in halfway through the hairpin. That's going to be Schumacher around. I believe Rupert came around as well. That's going to end that fight for the moment. Unfortunate for them. Ocamp is going to get away now about probably 5 to 8 seconds up the road. So that's going to at least give Ocamp some breathing room. But I'm sure the stewards are going to have to say something about that one as Rupert and Schumacher just get into it in the hairpin. Unfortunate for them, but these guys are just kind of in that window where their tires are starting to wear down. 47 minutes into this race, and we are seeing these guys come in for their pit stop. Matushka and Lebrec, in fact, both in for their pit stops 1 lap or 2 after Schumacher. So we are seeing all 3 leaders at this point pit. So yeah, George, it looks like that's what the plan was. They're all just going to come in the middle and go ahead, take the tires, and step on out.
Well, if your leader jumps into the pits, he takes away that undercut ability for you. So you're kind of been forced into another decision, which is, do you play with fire and risk the gamble, or if you're second and third, do you now just settle in, realize that he's pulled the opening move, and you're just gonna copy suit? So I think that's kind of the way that the cookie crumbles in that aspect. And the stewards again have been kept busy. I mean, if you look at the left side of the screen, you see some time penalties coming up to a lot of the drivers too. So just making sure that the driving standards are being kept in check. It's a big reality check come the end of the race, or when you need to serve your penalties, that you have incurred those things, because they do amass to a big change in the grid order for yourself. So Stefan Zero potentially going to try his luck. He was in 4th place. He's going to stay out on circuit. So with all the leaders having pitted in front, it will be him to resume the race lead for the AM class, or sorry, for the Pro class. As maybe Mike, for him it's a very manageable car, the Lexus, and he can go a little bit longer out. So it is that gamble out on the circuit. Michele Rizzo also just staying out a little bit longer than the front running leaders. So most certainly a couple of different strategies coming out between the top 3, and then from positions 4 down to 5th place, or even 6th place. I mean, Lecky, the AM driver, of course, going to have been promoted himself up to 6th place, having stayed out of the pit stop. So that number 87, Mike, I think you need to make a mark in your spreadsheet. Most certainly eyes to keep an eye out on for the Prey division in the future events, because that Lexus has really been flying, just a class out. And I mean, the whole of AM kind of split themselves out at the moment, and basically in a situation, because of the pit stops from some of the pro cars, they've found themselves out of position. So that all has to shift up. If you are a viewer and you're looking at the timing sheets on the left, and you see white numbers and red numbers and wonder why so many of the red cars, or the red AM drivers, are up there, we see Rizzo go side by side. Is that a back marker at this point in time? I think it is. I think
yeah, that's a back marker of Leonard there, fighting a leader.
Yeah, Leonard getting some blue flags, but feeling that not in a place that he needs to get through. So Rizzo in a bit of a blue flag sandwich at this point, because that NSX behind, that 737, is also a car that has been lapped already here. So not fight out for position for Rizzo. And if he feels that NSX has more pace on circuit, it does him no harm letting it go by, if it's going to mean that he avoids any sort of collision going towards the end of the race. So there, the 172 going to leave the wide line open through, and side by side almost they drag out. So now, are those two NSX drivers for position at this point in time?
I believe they are, yes. They're going to be side by side. That's P21, P22 there. Unfortunately, Leonard did get compromised by Rizzo.
Look at
there,
the cuts.
Look at the cuts. The cut under, coming out of Spoon. That's going to be Renoir coming out of Spoon, getting the pass done on top of Leonard. That is Rizzo's causing that right there.
No, that was Leonard. Leonard got the cut onto Renoir there. Renoir now is going to have a look into 130R, I believe, Mike. So the timing sheet may be confusing us a little bit coming through there, but it was in fact Mr. Leonard regaining that position coming back through, and it does look like through 130R is not losing it a little bit on the back end through the chicane. And
there's that Honda.
There's the Honda coming through. So just having to control a couple of elements that he wasn't expecting through. But Leonard definitely having got the move done and moving through the order.
So, George, as we've noticed, Mr. Jesse Lee is not here today. So, I've been playing Jesse Lee today. I've been doing some hypothesizing. I think Mr. Stefan Zero, currently in P1, normally driving the Lexus. He has not pit yet. We are now crossing 55 minutes just about into this race. I think Stefan Zero is not going to pit for tires. I think he's going to make an
I think
overcut.
that's, I
Yep.
think that's right. I think
In
you
that Lexus,
100%.
that's going to be rough. But I think that's what he's going for. He's currently we're waiting for Schumacher to cross the sector line. He is at least 30 seconds ahead at the moment of Martin Schumacher. About 15 seconds ahead of Rizzo in that Lexus. And we just saw Rizzo, of course, cutting through lap traffic, losing quite a bit of time. I think Zero's going for the overcut with fuel only. And that's going to be an interesting strategy for him. There it is, right there. Schumacher crosses the sector line, 45 seconds plus ahead of Schumacher. Even if he's a little slow because his tires are graining, that's well within a shout of still potentially taking home P1 after the pit stop, as we're seeing him going to be crossing the line here as the leader to start lap 26. Still 37 minutes left in this race. Long time to go here. A lot of things can happen. But Van Wingerden and Leckie both in the pits and for Am, by the way.
For me, it's a case of, I suppose, Schumacher, Lebrecht, and Matuszka. We are making a hard assumption that they did take their tires right going into the pits.
Yeah, they were in the pits long enough.
In.
They were in the pits for at least 30 seconds.
It's still theorycraft all the way through. They could have just taken fuel. We have no idea. Their lap times coming out, I think Schumacher setting the 2.0s, I think, is more confirmation than the pit stop coming down, that he has managed to, get a new set of tires on and find himself some reasonably fresh air. So
I did just run a check, by the way. Schumacher was in his pit box for 35 seconds.
Okay, so
a little bit of an incident here going on. That is Rizzo that just got sent off in the middle of lap traffic. Lap traffic all fighting each other there. Rizzo getting caught up, and that is I think at this point Rizzo, he needs to get in the pit lane. He's got a whole stack of cars up here that are all fighting each other, and these guys are all jostling for position. I think Rizzo needs to come in and get up out of this fight. That's going to be unfortunate for him. That's going to probably screw up his pit strategy. But hey, that's how it works, right? It's racing. You catch up to lap traffic, you get stuck. Sometimes you got to change your strategy up. But Rizzo just losing probably about another 6 or 7 seconds there to Stefan Zero ahead of him. I think at this point he's going to need to come in.
It's sometimes a call that you just have to make, and I think it's not a bad one coming down there. And this is, of course, that battle. Banks and Renault here. Banks going to Renault going to send it through on the inside line of Banks through 130R. Runs a little bit wide. Does try and cover himself back. Ooh, big dive. Braking mistake coming through, and will have a collision coming through. That's going to back up the cars behind as well. So I believe that, this is a three-way drag race now down.
Rizzo did not
the start-finish straights. He did not pit, and the three here also not being able to go into the pits to make a change. And that's the collision we did not want to see. Banks coming into the back end of that NSX Renault, and the stewards are going to be handing out penalties. These guys are big send-off in the background. So
that was
these guys,
Ocamp.
Ocamp having a big off. These drivers here all need to cool it down. They are going to be in very big trouble with the stewards if they're caught causing any more racing incidents out on circuit as well. It's kind of just been a dangerous bunch of cars to be caught up in. And, Mike, it's not what you want to see. It's 34 minutes left of racing. They need to cool down. And it's kind of where you wish you could get into the comms box and just say, settle. You need to. Mutin already with a penalty coming up here. Banks on the inside again. And it looks like he will get himself through there from the likes. Banks isn't going to get through there. He's under attack there. I apologize So there's just the timing sheet going absolutely mental as we watch these guys go around the circuit here at Suzuka.
Yeah, these guys are just all over each other. Rizzo does kind of carve his way through a little bit of them at least. Of course, he did not come in for his pit. By the way, went back and looked at Stefan Zero. He did, of course, make it his pit, but really quick, we've got Banks and Schumacher going side by side, going in for 130R here. Not the easiest place to go side by side, but I think Banks is going to kind of ease up just a touch there and just kind of let Schumacher by. Does not want to get tangled up, as we're seeing. Is that Billy Octane off? That is Billy Octane off. They just passed them for position at that point. Billy Octane now off, likely smashed into the wall. Little bit of a replay here after the incident. We can tell he definitely hit the wall there if he's all the way out that far. Probably caught the curve coming out of 130R if I had to guess. So unfortunate for him. We are not going to be able to get a replay of that one, but he just lost a ton of time. He was having a good race too, up near P10. So unfortunate for him.
We get the 3-point turn of shame for Octane on stream in repeat mode coming through. So Billy with a mistake that he would not have liked to make. And of course, he's having to join onto the circuit as well in a safe manner. Lots of cars coming through behind. He actually jumped back to the pits. Yeah, so an incident there worthy of him having to make the call to jump back. Schumacher here is on the hunt back for his race win. He's taken the position off of Zero, who has gone into the pit. So I think that Zero potentially, did a tire change as well. He
did not. I went and checked on that. Yeah, before we saw that 130R, that's what I was going to say. Actually, Zero went in. He did take fuel only. However, I think he should have taken tires. It looked like he was in his pit box for about 18 seconds. We'll see how his pace goes, but he was in his pit box for about 18 seconds. So he put plenty of fuel in to get through the rest of the race, but he did not take tires. Now Lebrec breathing down his neck. Not a position you want to be in with old tires, because Lebrec and Matushka did take tires. He is going to probably, if I had to guess here, Zero's going to go back to 5th place here within the next 5 laps, if I had to guess, because if he did not take tires, this Lexus has got to be ripped at the moment. And that's a fresh tire Nissan GTR there breathing down his neck, hardly giving him any room to spare. Lebrec all over the back end of him. Now coming across Spoon Corner out into 130R. There's some lap traffic. The 696 Lexus coming back across. They're going to have to kind of weave their way through there. Lebrec not able to quite get enough of a run coming into 130R. We'll see if he's got the downforce to make the 130R curve. Bounce off the curb there a little bit for Zero, but not quite enough for Lebrec to get a run coming into the chicane. He's going to have to wait at least one more lap. But that Lexus getting a little loose coming out of that chicane, and Ismail, he's just got to wait for the mistake at this point, because Zero's not on those fresh tires. He's going to start losing grip. I guarantee he's going to slip, come out of a corner, and this GTR is a monster down the straight. If he can get a run, he's just going to blow past him. I mean, you can see how much harder he's able to brake right now.
I mean, I think it also goes to show just how difficult it is to actually pass at a circuit here, that 2 cars on strategies where one has a completely new set of tires and someone else has driven on a tire set for almost an entire hour as I say that. So 30 minutes of the race remain. I don't think it's long enough to have Zero on this defense the entire time, but all of it is playing into the hands of Wolf Matushka. So Zero holding up the likes of Lebrec, that works out for Matushka, and Matushka will be loving this. So Zero here, and there we see that pink.
Oh, here he goes. Ismail diving down to the hairpin.
He has just made the decision that this is where he wants to come through. But look at the fight back coming out from the Lexus. What kind of boost mode does that have through? I think Lebrec maybe even just eased off the accelerator pedal, maybe felt that he was kind of a little bit divey coming through, because the exit that came out of there, those cars shouldn't have had that kind of deficit between them. So I feel that Lebrec felt that the contact between them coming into the hairpin was a little bit unfair maybe, and potentially just eased up. It's given the position back to Zero, but now will Zero hold the inside line through? He's going to force Lebrec to have a look, and that's not through. It's going to look at the dirty air, chucking it up and forcing Lebrec to hold on to that GTR coming out through 130R. But the hunt is on for that white and purple GTR as Zero continues that defense off on the old tires. And a great job the number 42 Lexus is doing indeed. Matushka, 1.6 seconds now behind the likes of Lebrec. And we get a good view of the pink Honda. And that's the door wide open from Zero. He's made a mistake through curve 2. And that very wide line gives him the inside line for the curves. Now, will he be able to? And round the outside, Lebrec goes inside line, inside, outside, inside, outside. And it doesn't matter at this point for Lebrec because he's got that position where he wants to have it. And now Matushka, he's going to have to deal with the defense from Zero. So I bet Lebrec is hoping that Zero gives Matushka the same sort of difficulty coming through here. Now, with those newer tires, we should see Zero start to pull away, but they have caught up to lap traffic, and this is going to bunch them back up once again. Out of the way, the back marker goes as they go under the crossover, and it's not enough for Zero to have another look just yet, but he's doing a good job to hold on, and Matushka entering into the picture indeed. Just a couple of car lengths behind Zero now.
Yeah, Wolf has arrived over 2 seconds faster than these guys on his last lap. Sorry, not quite 2 seconds, about 1.5 seconds. So all these guys have been fighting. Wolf has just been coming for them. Schumacher has pretty much checked out at this point as well. Whether that's because of Zero holding these guys up or not, we're going to find out. But Lebrec so far, he has definitely gapped out these guys a little bit. So it's going to be Matushka fighting Zero, seeing if he can get across Zero easier than Lebrec. If he can, that should allow him to catch up to Lebrec. I think Matushka's got the pace over Lebrec at the moment, but hard on the brakes there. Zero is just struggling under the brakes, you can tell, compared to these other guys. Wolf and Ishmael just able to just throw down the brakes a lot harder than he has. Wolf almost coming into contact there, coming into the chicane, but here's going to be the run coming out to start finish straight. Will Wolf go for it? I'm betting he will. There's coming approach curve right now. He's going for the inside, not able to quite get his nose down under there, though. Zero did get hard on the brakes for curve 1. Coming out of curve 2, both of them using that curb on the outside very well. Probably not going to happen through Snake here for them. Likely the next opportunity for Wolf here is going to be out of 200R into the hairpin. We'll see if he's able to get a run out of the Dagners and make that move like Ishmael Lebrec did a couple laps ago. Unsuccessfully, I do say, but Matushka, he is all over the back of Zero here. There's Dagner 1, there's Dagner 2. You can see Ishmael has already gapped a little bit. Under the crossover they will go. Looking back from the wing, Matushka, George, just not able to get the run this lap. But every time I look at the clock, I think, oh man, these guys have got to be about done, right? No, there's 25 minutes left of this race to go, and Matushka just absolutely all over the back of Zero. Here's where he's been struggling in the braking. Will it happen again coming into Spoon? Matushka got the run. You can see he's closing up. Matushka, though, a little bit loose, catches the curb in the grass a little too much, loses the momentum. Zero able to hold on to it, and that Lexus, this Honda, is just so dangerous. You touch a curb ever so slightly wrong, and that thing is going to throw you. And that is what Wolf is doing right there, as he's trying desperately to get past Zero so he can get up to Lebrec.
The fact that Zero can do such a hard defense on the old tires is just a phenomenal thing to witness here as well. I mean, he does lose out a little bit on the braking zone. Matushka dials right in, catches some curb as well through the chicane, kicks himself through a bucking wild cowboy that NSX behind in pink is. And Zero just looking into that rearview mirror, smiling to himself as well. And Matushka here wants to have it inside line. Is going to be covered by Zero. He's going to force Matushka to go around the outside. This might allow him to come back for some cutback. But Zero, with a very clean and tidy curve 2, is going to hold off the likes of Matushka once again. And this is a part of the track where you just have to kind of settle in. And, it's going to be a handful for Zero on the old tires. There is a spun out Lexus in front of them. It's not going to compromise the race between the two of them. The number 42 holds off the 25 through Dunlop. They now start to go. This NXX of Matushka definitely starting to look like it's got a little bit of a handling problem itself when it gets too aggressive or into that dirty air. You see it just getting very twitchy. Nose comes in, snaps back, and Matushka has to just ease off the accelerator a tiny bit. So he's dropped those car lengths down, but up to the hairpin, it's into the braking zones that he's making up all the time, really, to the likes of 0-0. Yes, has the grunt from that Lexus down the fast sectors of the circuit, but if Matushka can hold off in that slipstream, he can also get towed along too. So has to be careful. He does seem to struggle with that downforce, so it's a double-edged blade, but he needs to tow along as well. He's had a good run through Spoon. He's trying to hold on to that momentum through. That 42 is struggling for grip indeed, but manages somehow to still carry the momentum down at the back stretch, and it's not going to be an attack just yet from Matushka.
Maybe coming into the chicane, go look at this run. Wolf is closing as they approach 130R. Both of them going a little wide. They're running over the curb, but I think Zero's got it. He did keep it steady again coming out of 130R, and this Zero is just doing fantastic driving at the moment. He is almost 70 minutes onto these tires and is still holding steady against the likes of a Wolf Matushka, who is just a fantastic driver. Maybe not in a normal car that he's used to, but a fantastic driver nonetheless, and on fresher tires. I'd like to point out as well, George, something I noticed. Rizzo has not pit yet. He's approaching the 70-minute mark in that Lexus. He has got to be just about out of fuel, as we're seeing. Matushka just got a drive-through for track limits. That is going to put that battle to rest right there. Matushka went too wide coming into the first corner, out across the curb into corner 2, and gets himself a third track limits warning. That's going to put a drive-through in for him. He's going to have to come in for that within the next couple laps. That is going to take this fight completely out of the equation. Zero now has almost exclusively locked down 4th place, if I'm not mistaken. Lebrec has checked out ahead. Lebrec is not going to be pressured by Matushka anymore this race. Currently 3 seconds out ahead of Zero, just about, and that is not the way we wanted this battle to end. But unfortunately for Matushka here, track limits are track limits, and I guess that's the commentator's curse coming back across. I apologize, Wolf. I was sitting here rooting for you, and I pulled a Ryan Gill for you.
I mean, I was going to say that you said it's not something we wanted to see between yourself and myself. We've had some car picks here that we chose at the start of the race. And for me, seeing Lebrec getting cleared out with Matushka going through just means that I've won over Mike Jones, which is a personal victory. Mike Jones, the reviver of the commentator's curse, and it wasn't the Ryan Gill commentator's curse. That is most certainly the Jesse Lee side. So I see how you Americans always try to get together and blame somebody else. But yeah, it's the Jesse Lee side. So at least it was another American that Wolf Matushka can be upset with in Discord after the race, because it was your fault for Tuesday. Leave his pink cars alone. I think you said it before, and I'll say it for I'm the voice of Wolf Matushka today.
Yeah, unfortunate for him. However, looking at the timing board here, Wolf, of course, currently in the pits. Hilicalio just made his way past him as Wolf is coming out of the pits. Ripper going to come past as well, so that's going to put Matushka down to 7th place. He's going to have a little bit of spots to make up there. I think within the next 20 minutes, he could still potentially make up a couple spots. He's only about 4 seconds back from Hilicalio as Stewie switches our tree over to take a look at that. So he's got the potential to at least make that top 5. But unfortunately, P4, P3 definitely going to be out of the question for him unless something happens. We do have 20 minutes left on this race here at Suzuka. Currently, we're looking at just almost 6:30 a.m. sim time here in Japan this morning, and it is just a heck of a race going on here. The top spot's very contested as we're seeing Avishkin, one of the blue flagged cars, fall off the track there through the Degners. Wolf slides on past him before he makes the hairpin. He wants to make up this time. He's got Ripper out in front of him. That's that Nissan out in front of him. Hilicalio just a little bit up the road as well. So Matushka's going P5 hunting at this time for this Muck Motorsport 25 Pepto-Bismol Honda. Rizzo in the pit lane, our de facto leader, 71 minutes and a half into this race. Rizzo is in his pit lane. Curious to see if he's taking tires here, where he's going to fall out. He just entered his pit box. So this is at least 20 seconds of fueling that he's going to have to take. Whether he can come out of this pit lane in time to hold down P5 is another question. We're currently seeing these guys, Baku and Wolf Matushka, currently Hilicalio, Ripper, all crossing that chicane. And so Rizzo is actually going to make it out here in P4. Hilicalio just crossing the line in P5. So Rizzo, good strategy by him there. He went as long as he could, just took fuel. Whether he can hold on there or not is another thing. As one of the other blue flag cars, that was Bockel, the 696, flying off the track there, if I'm not mistaken. So there's another Lexus kind of flying off the track. No, that was not Bockel. That was another Lexus.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Baku. It was someone else. But he 100% panicked for whatever reason at the car exiting the pits of Rizzo that we were following along. Hilicalio, he's definitely got some interesting situations on his hand. He's got Ripper right behind him for position. Of course, this little bunch of traffic that might slow them down is going to be what Wolf Matushka needs from 7th place. So he's kind of starting to eye out that there are two Nissans fighting out for position in front of him, which is going to compromise their times. And they're just trying to get through traffic as quick as they can. Good work from backmarkers to really make a lot of space where not maybe always necessary, but making sure that they do not get involved in that battle whatsoever, and they let it just be down to the drivers on circuit. A little shout out to our YouTube viewers as well for watching all the action. Thank you so much all for joining us. If you like what you see here, make sure that you subscribe to our RCI platforms. We really do host a lot of races, whether it's a once-off little cup event or something more serious and with more rounds and a championship style format. So lots of formats and lots of races out there. So Mike, have you smashed the like button yet?
You know, George, as it turns out, I sure have. As Ripper here, though, all over the back of Hilicalio. These guys don't even have time to look at the like button, paying attention to the cars in front of them. That was just a hair's breadth between these two. Hilicalio, Ripper, and that is Matushka back in the background there, of course. Now within about a second and a half of these guys. He is trying to make his way back into P5. However, Hilicalio wants to hold on to it. About 15 minutes left in this race. That's going to put us with about 7 or 8 laps remaining, depending on when Schumacher crosses the line, assuming he is still the leader at the time. Currently 16 seconds up the road from Stefan Zero. Stefan Zero is, by the way, got back past Lebrec at some point. I'm going to check that here on the replay as soon as I'm done talking. But right now, a very exciting battle for P5 going on here, George. Hilicalio and Ripper are just all over each other with this, and Matushka is going to get involved here shortly, just like we saw with Lebrec and Zero a moment ago. Wolf catching up to these guys that are fighting.
So Hilicalio is trying to do his best to just hold off the likes of Ripper, and Matushka there is definitely starting to close down on them. Lebrec, as our race control directors whispered into our ears, has had an accident, which is why he is down the field from Zero as well. So with 14 minutes to go, hopefully Lebrec not having picked up damage there for his number 67 if he wants to. So it sounds like, Mike, I mean, give me a rundown on the damage.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Sergio Suardi in the 2.8 Racing Line Motorsport Honda and him came into contact in 130R. Looks like Sergio had some issues, got loose. Lebrec coming through 130R, to me, looks like he had nowhere to go. Pounded into him, and Lebrec smashed into the wall outside of the corner. So Lebrec will definitely have some damage there. It's just the question of, I don't think he's going to pit at this point, of course. I think he's going to try and hold it down. He's still pretty far ahead of Rizzo if he can hold it, but that is going to be a lot of damage here. His last lap was a 201.3. So even if he does have damage, very quick laps coming down from him still. So Lebrec's still holding on, but here it is right here. Matushka on the back of Ripper, defensive, going into curve one. The Matushka tapping the back of Ripper ever so slightly as he goes to the outside, realizes that he tapped him a little bit, probably backing off there slightly, making sure that he doesn't want to take advantage of a push to pass there. Matushka is falling back ever so slightly there. Hilicalio now out in front of these guys by a little bit as Matushka and Ripper are fighting. Back in through the snake here, going across lap traffic. That's Ferreira in the 22 Nissan, just trying to give as much room as possible as these are leaders coming through. P4, P5, P6 for these guys, or sorry, P5, P6, P7 for these guys as Rizzo is up in 4th place. However, George, what I noticed is even though these guys are fighting, Rizzo is losing time to them a little bit as well. Those tires potentially suffering him a little bit. However, he's still about 4 seconds up the road, and there's only 13 minutes left here. I don't know if these guys have time to catch Rizzo at the moment and still be able to pass him.
They absolutely have time to catch up to him. At this point in time, Rizzo is bleeding time to this chase. I feel like Ripper being fueled up by Matushka as well, as Hilicalio is going to sort of lead them away. Matushka gets very wide, very loose, coming into Spoon. The 666 of Ripper going to get a little bit of breathing space down onto the back stretch. And all three of them here really do need to work together to catch up to Rizzo. Because if they do continue to go side by side or fight it out and they lose that time deficit that they're making up, then they will not have that opportunity. But as things stand now, Hilicalio is on track to catch up to Rizzo. And then it's a defense on some very old tires, I think. I mean, like you said, catching up, maybe. Passing, well, we saw how hard Zero made it for... Yeah, we saw how hard Zero made it for Lebrec on older tires. So, you know, at the end of the race here, we'll see who comes off. Matushka again. He's definitely struggling. Some of that aero downforce, turbulent air as you get closer and closer to the back end of the cars in front. Each car kind of has different profiles for how it handles it, and it depends how you've set it up to handle the turbulent air as well, I suppose. So if your car isn't going to be set up for following into that traffic and trying to push through it, right, you are going to struggle a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I can't quite tell what kind of setup Matushka's running here. I believe he's running a little bit of a higher wing, higher downforce setup, as he doesn't have quite the speed that I was expecting out of a lower wing setup here. However, George, look at what happened again here. We have a drive-through for Ripper exceeding track limits, if I'm not mistaken here. Hang on a second. I'm confirming that with our stewarding report.
Briggs,
yeah, no
Briggs
stewarding report coming off. Briggs, P4 and AM, who's only a few seconds back from Madzo, has also received a drive limit. He received that last lap as we were watching Matushka all over Ripper, however. So yeah, both of these guys now exceeding track limits. So this is our third fight within about P1 to P5 in both classes that has received a drive-through for track limit. Suzuka, so easy to go off a track. There are so many high-speed corners like this one here in 130R that are so easy to go off. Here's Van Wingerden back in P17 overall, one of our AM drivers. He is currently, kind of celebrating that drive-through behind him. However, I am curious to see what is going on back in that lap traffic again, as these guys are all approaching lap traffic now. Here's Katozi and Banks, and that is Hilicalio and Matushka behind them. These guys are fighting each other as well. They don't, they've got the leaders coming up behind them, but they've got their own fight going on. Banks does have a 15-second penalty to serve at the end of the race. So it's just a question of, does Banks decide, what, I've got this penalty, go ahead and go cross. I know the leaders are coming up. We don't know that quite yet, but yeah, Katozi is all over the back of Banks. He wants past him, and all this is doing at this point with Hilicalio is letting Matushka get back up on his wing. We can see Matushka has made up a couple tenths since the line at least, and these guys fighting for P18 are holding up now P5, P6. We'll just see if Matushka is able to catch up and get past him, because if he can, with Ripper getting that penalty, That's a P5. Oh, and there it
Oh.
goes right there. The absolute send through Degner 2. That was Hilicalio going just a touch wide in Degner 2. Wolf Matushka absolutely capitalizing on it. Little bit of a touch in lap traffic there. It looks like Banks just slowed down a little bit more than Matushka was expecting. He has to let Hilicalio back by, as he's going to let the lap traffic back by as well, I think. No, I think Banks was like, you know what? Nope.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, there we go.
he is.
He was trying to let him go. I think Banks was like, no, dude, go ahead. But that is unfortunate for Matushka. He's now got a few more seconds to make up and only about 4.5 to 5 laps to do it. But yeah, I want to say that I think that Lexus slowed down a little bit more than Matushka was thinking, and just that little bit of a tap, and that's going to, go there again for him, and that is just more time of losing. However, here it is, George. Lebrec and 0. 8 minutes left, and look what's happened. Stefan 0 has lost the time to Lebrec. He is now caught up to the back of him, and we're going to be seeing a fight here for P2, P3, as well as potentially P4, P5, or P5, P6, rather. I apologize if Matushka can catch up. Rizzo's putting down some excellent lap times still, by the way. He's still putting down 201.6s, even with those old tires. 0 putting down 201.3s with these old tires. I cannot believe that these two Lexuses are doing so well on these old tires, but both of these guys showing the strength of what this Lexus can do if you're careful with it. And at this point, it's a fight for their life. 7 minutes to go. Old tires with a car with new tires behind them. Can they hold it for the next 7 minutes? Well, I don't even want to predict it at this point, George. How about you?
I mean, it's the Nissan, which is the older tech car anyway on the grid. So maybe the understeery nature of even a Lexus falling off isn't quite up to the BOPing nature of what needs to come out. So I don't think it's been just a case of 0 being able to just manage the car. I mean, I think he's had to push it to the limits. It feels like the car is very much on the edge of where it can really be pushed to as well. So he's having to struggle to keep that car between the lines, try and not pick up one of those drive-through penalties. And the break here in his sort of older tech GTR does have the fresher sets beneath him, and is trying to just make sure that he can get himself into a spot where as soon as 0 does make a slight mistake or does run a little bit wide, that he can be there. Because with 5 minutes to go, that's really what he needs to happen. And we see that back end of the Lexus kicking round through curve 1, but does carry through a lot of that speed into curve 2, and into the snake they go. And again, not a place that they're going to be able to get through, and they're going to catch up to some more lap traffic as well in the same sort of sector that we saw so many of the leaders coming through in lap traffic situations, up through Dunlop and then trying to navigate out through the Degners. And for now, will be 0 to find a couple of car lengths through Dunlop and give himself some breathing space out through the Degners, all just trying to keep it in between the lines, keep those track limits at bay, make sure that they are going to get a last lap penalty. But really, Lebrec is fighting it out. It is Schumacher that's benefiting from all of this at the final couple of minutes, because for him, he's got nothing to worry about here. The 732 going to let both the cars in front go by, but it has cost Lebrec a little bit more, the traffic, that it has 0, and the gap between them shows it.
Definitely has, as we watch back the wing cam here from Stefan 0 coming out of Spoon Corner, approaching 130R. They are going to be starting the final 3 laps here as the next time they cross the finish line. It's gonna be interesting here. Oh, there's lap traffic again. Stefan 0 just absolutely losing a ton of time. Here goes Lebrec on the outside into the final chicane. Little bit of a touch there, little bit of a shove over. Lebrec's gonna have the inside line coming out of the corner, but just is not able to keep enough grip coming onto the final straight. However, this is gonna be a drag race down the front straight here as they cross the start finish line. Lebrec going, or Stefan Zero going absolute defensive all the way to the bottom of the track, forcing Lebrec back up to the outside line for curve 1, curve 2. It's just a question of can Lebrec get hard on the brakes? Not hard enough, and I don't think he's going to be able to get the cut back here as well. So that's that same issue that Lebrec had a few laps ago at 130R, caught up to lap traffic in 130R. This time it cost Stefan Zero. Lebrec now all over the back of him. However, as they come through Snake here and approach Dunlop, this is the spot where it's just not, you're probably not going to pass here unless a massive mistake is done.
Well, Zero's
going to have to fall back.
Zero is doing everything right in terms of where he needs to park that car, because you see Lebrec carrying so much more speed, even through curve 1 and 2, and that cutback just gets stopped out. But this Lexus being put in exactly the right place. He's not changing lines multiple times, but he is making sure that he's slow enough through that Lebrec has to force out, and he is going to have to dive around the outside of the hairpin. So very much Zero going for some earlier braking points with those older tires, forcing Lebrec into situations that he doesn't want to be in. And once again, he is going to find himself having to chase down again Lebrec.
Yeah, he is. So, you know, this Lexus is the whitest car I have ever seen. Shanti in the chat just said much of the same, and this is just Stefan Zero. I mean, this is just a drive by him. I mean, this guy has put in so much driving, just excellent driving in the past 88 minutes. Going a little wide there in 130R, I don't think enough to kind of abuse the track limits there. You can get quite far off onto those curbs there. Not getting a DT this time around. However, if we can pop over to Martin Schumacher just for a quick second there up in P1 here, Stewie, we are going to see him come across Snake here. One more lap to go after this one. This is Martin Schumacher, your race leader, currently 22 seconds up the road from the fight. We are going to switch back over to Zero and Lebrec fighting for P2. So these guys are going to have this lap and next lap to get this battle wrapped up, and it is just going to heat up all the way through. The battle behind them, Rizzo, Hilicalio, Matushka, has cooled down completely. All those guys at least 3 to 5 seconds behind each other. The battle for AM leader, Lecky in the 87 Lexus in P1, handedly ahead of Van Wingerden, who is handily above Madzo and handily above P4. So the AM class podium has kind of locked it down. Coming out of Degner too here, you can see Zero not able to get enough traction. Ismail is all over the back of him. The question is, can he go for the outside? He is going to go for it here. Switching back over to the top camera, can Ismail squeeze him just enough to get the switch back? Not quite enough, but Lebrec just trying everything he can just to make this happen. He's gonna try and go for it under Spoon again, but it's just not working so far. Ismail, can he get hard enough on the brakes? No. Zero able to hold it down, but look at this run that Lebrec has. He's gonna poke the nose under. There he goes, coming out of Spoon corner. They're gonna go side by side down here on the backstretch. Can he get the run coming into 130R? Lebrec does have the speed for the moment, but Zero is known to throw down that accelerator button on the stretches here and get the run. Lebrec diving to the outside, making sure he gets the good line coming into 130R. Goes a bit wide. Leader is now on the final lap. These guys approaching the final chicane. Lebrec has gotten the pass done. One more lap to go. Stefan has put on the defensive for the past 50 minutes. Now, can he put on the attack? I don't think he can. Lebrec is probably going to have the speed here. It's just the question of, is a mistake going to be made? This is the pressure. Final lap of a 90-minute race. A little tiny mistake is going to slide Zero past. There he is, still all over the back. He's saying, don't listen. You might have passed me. I am still here. You screw up your line a little bit, now I am going to get my nose under you. About 90 seconds left in this race for these guys, and Zero has it all to lose. Unfortunate for him, sliding down to P3 on the final lap. He's going to have to find a spot here. Hope Lebrec makes a mistake.
Yeah, Lebrec seems to not be on that same train of thought. He is not worried about Zero behind him. He's just making sure he runs the lines he needs to make. Degner 1 on board always looks a little bit rougher. You see Zero dial down and get through a little bit closer, but it's not enough to be into any sort of lunge range down into the hip, and a big off from an NSX on the background view there as he misses through the hairpin and smashes into the wall. The 67 though from Lebrec, having pulled a last lap move, is going to hold down second for now, coming into Spoon. I believe Schumacher, our race leader, should potentially be coming over the line any minute now. So all the drivers waiting to hear that the checkered flag has come down. So Lebrec still trying to make sure that he gets everything right coming through. And it's looking like his race to toss away at this point. Schumacher, our race leader, going to go down over the line, flashing his lights, and take the race victory, as Lebrec will still hold on to second place for the moment, Mike.
Yeah, he is. I think that, he took the very conservative line there. Zero just trying the absolute hardest he could. Went very wide in 130R, not able to quite get the run. But here is Ismail Lebrec for the You Bet I'm Taking Tires 67 Nissan GTR, making that second to last pass with an absolute heck of a battle between him and Stefan Zero for like the past 45 to 50 minutes. And that is just absolutely insane. Here is a little bit of a battle going on. This is for overall position, not for that is Rupert and Lecky. Yes, that's Lecky out in front, Rupert back behind, not for overall position, or not for class position, but overall position. However, Rupert does have a 20-second penalty he'll need to serve at the end of the race. So Lecky, even if he loses this position, Rupert will have fallen back past him. Lecky for the Tech 1 Racing 87 Lexus is out here with the AM victory today. Handedly held that down all race long. Dustin Woost here, George. We usually see the Woost brothers out here kind of up in the top half of the field. He had a bit of a rough race today. Apparently, we didn't see much of Dustin, but finishing back in P18 overall, which is P16 for class, out ahead of Schumeren as they cross the line there. So Schumeren going to come across in 19th. And if we could pop the timetable up on the board for a second here, we can give you an overview of our finishing positions. We have Schumacher up in P1, Lebrec, of course, finishing in P2, Stefan Zero with an amazing ride coming home overall in P3, Rizzo as well in another one of those Lexuses, George, that just did not take tires, still did really well. Hillicalio finishing 5th place in that GTR, though. Good race by him as well. And it looks like Matushka may have had a last minute off again there towards the end of the races. I don't even see him on the timing board.
No, I don't see him either, but a good race coming out from all involved, and a good race coming out from the AM drivers as well. I think they did a good job out on the circuit to make for some good racing for the pros as well as their fellow AM drivers too.
Yep. Yeah, excellent racing from these guys, though. That was just an absolute battle for the last half of that race. Excellent race by these guys, putting on a heck of a show for us and all of the viewers here. Guys, of course, we appreciate you guys all tuning in. If you're interested in watching more races by us, please feel free to like and subscribe. We'll have another race up tomorrow. We have our McLaren Masters Cup, 720 versus 570S, GT3, GT4, Pro and AM drivers all on the field tomorrow, starting bright and early at 2000 hours BST, 8 p.m. time British. And of course, our Friday Endurance Championship will start this week as well, starting at 2000 hours again on Friday. We have 8 rounds of that upcoming. George Smith, Jesse Lee, and Ryan Gill, the absolute commentating trifecta, will be bringing that live to you. I believe, George, you might miss the first race, but you will be there for the rest. And that will be a heck of a show to watch, guys. Make sure you tune in on Fridays for that. That is still registering, by the way, if you guys are interested. Teams of 2 for that, 2-hour races. You guys can jump onto our Discord. Link is down in the description. Register for that. 12 hours of Bathurst, slowly approaching as well. Just a couple weeks until our pre-qualifying for the 12 hours of Bathurst. 2 servers happening for that. We have our Pro and Alien drivers going to be on our Split 1, as well as the Silver and AM drivers in Split 2. Feel free to jump on Discord, register for that one as well. Bring the friends in and get this thing rocking. And, of course, the Night Owl Championship, Saturday evenings, 2300 BST. You can come tune in for that as well with myself and Jesse Lee. George, any final thoughts?
I cannot wait to be back into doing some more regular races for RCI. So bar the first round that I'll miss, I'll see you guys on Fridays.
All right, guys. Well, you heard it here. George, much appreciate you joining me today. I've been Mike Jones, George Smith bringing you the commentary, Stewie bringing you all the live pictures from today. From everybody here at RCI, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend.